down in places you don't talk about at parties. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
Keep this frequency clear.
And now it's conspiracy. See, they've made that something that should not be even entertained for a minute, that powerful people might get together and have a plan. Doesn't happen. You're a kook. You're a conspiracy buff.
You're watching The Truth is Viral. And now, here's your host, Mr. Bobby Powell.
Bob, you are with us.
Okay, good deal. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you fine, Bob.
Okay, excellent. Drake, I'm looking at the comments on your Facebook page and in the chat room, and brother, I've got a question that I'm thinking everybody else wants to know the answer to. Where's the beef?
Where's the beef?
Where's the beef?
Well, it's a combination of things, and the military has told me they're going to do a combinational deal. And the combinational deal may lead up to crowd-type arrests. It may not. The plan, as I've told everybody before, is fluid. By that I mean it's changeable according to what's going on. One of the main issues that the military has had is disruption of things as they are, to an extent that it creates chaos.
Okay,
is my
now
phone making that noise? Whose phone's making all that noise?
Not mine, I don't think. I've got a dedicated and encrypted Skype connection, so we should be good. But
anyway, the basis of the plan changed. I think it was about my third or fourth radio show, in terms of a determined, one at a time, determined arrest pattern that they were going to follow for a certain amount of time.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but go ahead.
That does not mean that the mass arrests are necessarily off. What it means is that, as I stated earlier in this show, certain people in certain places, and you got to remember other countries are working with us on this. So if you hear about an arrest in another country, that may be some kind of a conduit or whatever, or key person. So what they're doing is they're taking out the key people first. After they get a certain amount of those, then the big arrests, as I understand it, can take place. They have not stated that they were going to absolutely do that anymore. So it's
when the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Krulak, a former, there's no such thing as a former Marine, but he's a Marine Corps staff general, said that President Obama, by killing Anwar al-Awlaki, gave a posthumous victory to Osama bin Laden, because what it's done is it has taken our Fifth Amendment right away from us. The President of the United States can now sign a piece of paper and order the death of any American citizen. He can order their enslavement with Executive Order 13603. It says persons of outstanding experience and ability may be conscripted without compensation. Okay, there's no doubt that the man that's in the White House right now is guilty of treason and murder as underneath the law. Now, if the military has men like General Krulak saying that that Obama is basically a liar and a murderer, why don't they just go and arrest him? I guarantee you that Navy SEALs, Marine Corps Force Recon, they live for this kind of stuff. They could surround the White House and overwhelm the Secret Service within a matter of minutes. Now,
Secret Service would be on their side.
Well, what makes you think that?
Well, because they got shit on. All that stuff in a certain foreign country with all the dirty thingamabobs and this and that and all that horse hockey. The president crapped on them.
Okay, well then why doesn't this very much? Then why don't they just do it now? What's stopping them?
You got it. Well, you have to remember one thing. It's called tactics. It's also called preparation, and it's called logistics. When they're in a position to do so, this man will be removed.
Yeah, I remember what Colin Powell said during Desert Storm. He said he's going to cut the head off the snake and then kill it. And
Yeah, well, he
the
didn't.
head of the snake in this country is Barack Obama.
No,
Now,
no. Everybody would like to think that. You got to remember he's a puppet.
well, yeah, that's why I say in this country.
Okay, what happens
Obviously,
when
somebody's pulling his strings. Yeah.
exactly? Now, what happens to a puppet when you cut the fingers off the puppet master?
I guess it
don't
just
work so
falls
well.
down. No, it doesn't. But
Okay, now you understand. Now you understand when I say that things are going on behind the scenes, that there are some pretty extraordinary things going on.
okay, well, let's say that these mass arrests do occur. What have you been told anything that happens after that? Is there supposed to be military in charge? Will they enforce the line of succession? Will Joe Biden be our next president?
No, they don't like the guy. He's, I would say he's worse than Obama in a lot of ways. Personally, I will express this, okay? There are contingencies in place. If it comes to a point where there has to be a mass removal, there are qualified people who operate exclusively according to the basis of the Constitution and founding documents only, who will be placed in certain critical offices.
So then some type of a civilian junta then.
Exactly, and it's going to be a temporary one. I want everybody to understand that. Temporary because you cannot appoint somebody. That becomes a military coup. That becomes a puppet government.
Greg, before we continue with this, now you know that I was part of a project which facilitated the military to start conducting this action, and I'm not authorized to speak in detail on it, but I know you might be able to maybe give some clarification as to that process and how it's relevant to what's happening now, and then moving forward into the future.
Okay, well, basically what Paul's referring to is the declaration or notification process that has been concluded by a majority of the states. If people look into history, they'll find that originally each one of the colonies was an individual nation. Each one of the colonies decided that they needed to have some help every once in a while from other colonies. These other colonies decided they agreed. And you have a document called the Articles of Confederation. This allowed, if somebody's invading a certain state, for all the other states to send some help, that sort of thing.
Okay. Drake, I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions because I've got to get going.
Okay.
One thing I think people might like to know is, why did the military choose you? What's your background? And do you have connections with the military or the intelligence community that they would choose you to, talk to people on their behalf?
Well, I have been being talked to by the military since I was a kid. Varying officers would stop by and talk to me about things.
Were you a military brat?
No. That I won't go into. The reasons for their talking to me is varied, and it goes into a whole bunch of different areas that, as I said, I won't discuss at this point, primarily because it would interfere with some of their planning.
You're not saying that you were abducted like in an...
Hold on, listen.
Okay.
The contacts continued all the way through the point where I ended up doing my tour of service in Vietnam. After I got out of the service, I also was getting contacted, not quite as frequently, but still being contacted. How are things going? And is this, is this, that, and the other thing? There was some discussion, and I can't go into the particulars simply because it would cause problems. But the contact has continued all my life. Now, exactly why, nobody has told me exactly why yet. Now, I will say this. Several things go into it. One is that when they tell me specifically say this, I do so. Second part of it is that I have an extraordinary amount of information that I'm not talking about and won't talk about until they tell me it's okay to do so. So there is an extraordinary amount of trust involved in between us. Being a part of other projects and being associated with other people put me in an interesting situation, and that interesting situation culminated in them expressing that they would like me to do an interview. That was the first one with David Wilcock. This was supposed to be kept online, not into the mainstream media, TV, Fox News, whatever, if you want to call that mainstream, or any of that. And I have kept my word and will continue to keep it. Period. So.
Okay. When you say that you were contacted as a child, are you insinuating that that was some kind of a MK Ultra thing where the CIA grabs you up as a young kid and trains you in the way that they think you should go?
No, this was short interviews, generally wherever I was at. It might be in a field I was playing. It might be at my house. Very specific questions, sometimes usually only 2 or 3, and I was thanked, and they went on their way. They made sure that my parents were not aware of my being questioned.
Are you sure that they were military? Yes.
Yes, I am.
I'm sorry. We're going to have to kind of wrap up if you have another question for Drake, because we have literally hundreds of callers having not had Drake on with us last week.
Okay.
So if you have one more question, we need to open the floor to our callers. So.
Sure. I'll make it short. On the 22nd of June, somebody came forward up here in Alpena where the explosions had happened and said that they had seen a UFO over Lake Huron and that this UFO was being chased and engaged by F-16 fighter craft. Yeah, just like a scene out of Stargate. Now, I found that story to be a little bit suspect. So I went to flightradar24.com and I checked the radar tracks for that period of time. At 10:30 Eastern, a Qatari cargo plane. You know what comes from Qatar, right? That's CENTCOM and the NSA and CIA and all those nice alphabet agencies. But at 10:30, this plane comes in 50 miles off of Alpena. It stops in midair, and then it just disappears off the radar. And then a few hours later, at 2:46 a.m., a Morningstar Air Express takes off from Toronto, bound for Calgary. It gets 50 miles off of Alpena, and then it disappears from radar. And both of these planes are being held suspended, according to the radar track, for 10 minutes before they disappear. All the other planes on the radar track down around Indiana and Ohio borders, they're still moving. But these planes that are up in Alpena, they just stop right in midair. Okay, wow. And you know, all this information can be found on my blog, bobpowell.blogspot.com. I didn't want to make the same mistake that Breitbart did. Okay, because you know, when I have information, if I can't, it gets out there right away. Okay, they can't do anything about that now. It's out there. So does this incident, the explosion up here, the UFOs that have been alleged to be seen, and these disappearing planes have anything to do with this green light that you've been talking about?
It's a part of it, but I can't say any more than that.
When you this is not frustrating.
Listen to me very carefully. I'm not allowed to discuss certain plans, be they ETs, angels, whatever you want to call them, and the military, and other things that are happening. When I say I have extraordinary information, if I were to say it right now, there'd be about 15 or 20 people die within just a few minutes.
Okay, so the explosion that we
say anything.
Okay, the explosion. That's fireworks. Everything's cool. I got grandkids.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. We're going to have to keep on moving here, and we really appreciate your calling in.
Okay, you have a good day.
Happy Independence Day. Thank you, sir.
Happy Independence Day to you. Semper Fi.
Thank you for watching The Truth is Viral with your host, Bobby Powell. Make sure to follow The Apocalypse on Twitter at The Truth is Viral. Like The Truth is Viral on Facebook. Subscribe to Old Core BLT 13 on YouTube. And if you can, please remember to donate to the cause via PayPal at www.bobpowell.blogspot.com.